Hello, everyone, and welcome to another gathering of our donors for the subscription service that we are building for you. A value for you to say thank you for what you do to support us in our work with church leaders, with women, and providing them resources for soul care. I'm happy to introduce you to Casey Tygrett today. Casey is the author of As I Recall. And Casey's book is specifically aimed at the interplay, the intersection of our memories and spiritual formation. And I have asked Casey to lead us in a moment of quiet for your purposes to use whenever you like, be it with your family or with your church team or with your small group, wherever that may be. Casey's going to give us some tips and pointers at the end that will allow you to use this in a way that is helpful for you, your spiritual formation, and the spiritual formation of those that you love. So thank you, Casey, for being with us today. And I'm going to turn it over to you now to lead us in a few moments of quiet.
Thanks so much. It's exceptional to be with you all. And thank you for taking the time to do this. Before we get too far into this practice, I would like to ask if you're driving or you're doing something that requires focused attention, maybe save this for later because we want you to be able to give the time and energy, whether it's just you by yourself or maybe it's you with your family, be able to give the attention to this that you can in the spaces that you have. So if that's an option, feel free to do that. Obviously, you can keep listening if you want, but just a suggestion there. I have found over the last few years as a spiritual director that when I talk with people, much of what we deal with as it pertains to their relationship with God and the health or unhealth of their soul ends up funneling back to some sort of experience they had in the past. So whether it's something that happened as a child, something that happened in their teenage years, if they're in their older years, something that happened in their early adulthood. And it was too much of a coincidence, and it happened too often for me to ignore the fact that maybe spirit was in this, maybe God was leading me to think more about these past events and how they have an impact on us. I also began to see how my own life had been shaped by things that had happened in the past, and everything from the way that I carry myself in public to the things that I think about God, the church, and other people, how they've been shaped by things that have happened in the past. And that drove me to begin to look at neuroscience and find the ways that our brain physically changes shape to accommodate our memories. There are parts of our brain that literally change shape. It's called neuroplasticity. And it changes shape around these memories. And so what I began to think is none of us are who we are without our memories, which means the ground where we encounter God, the ground where we do the work of spiritual formation and soul care has to have something to do with the things that have happened to us. And so the practice I want to lead you in today is a practice of engaging with our memories. It's a way of us taking stock of and interacting with specifically one memory that comes to mind that is most powerful or potent, or maybe we can see how it's affected our life up to this point. I'm borrowing heavily here from the structure of another prayer called the Prayer of Examen, which was created by St. Ignatius. And it's basically a way for the Examen prayer is a way of taking stock of what's happened in a day. I've simply taken it and expanded it to take stock of what has happened in the past, whether that's last week or 20 years ago. And so as I lead you in this practice, the two things I want to remind you of is practices are tools. They're simply ways for us to engage. They can be modified and shaped around the ways that work best for us and our personalities. Some of you may not be very inward looking people. That's fine. Maybe this is a quick practice for you. Some of you, like me, I love just sitting in the contemplative space for a long time. So feel free to sit there as long as you need to. So as we begin this practice, wherever you are, I would invite you to simply take a posture that is upright, feet on the floor, back straight but not rigid, comfortably sitting upright. And you'll know if you are based on how easy it is for you to breathe. So if you can take a deep breath in and a deep breath out without much effort, you're sitting pretty straight. So I'd invite you to do that. And as you do that, you can close your eyes. This is why we asked you not to do it while you were driving. You can close your eyes and focus just on taking that deep breath in and releasing that breath out. Deep breath in and big exhale. As you do that, I want to remind you that the words for breath, air, and spirit in both the Old and the New Testaments are the same word. So as we breathe in, what we're doing is taking in not only the air that keeps us alive, but the Spirit of God that gives us life. So take that deep breath in and deep breath out. As you breathe, let the silence sink around you. Let the quiet, let it just surround you. Deep breath in and deep breath out. Wherever you're sitting, I ask that you take your palms and lay them open either on your lap or you can hold them out in front of you like this. Open hands are just a posture of receiving. And so in our practice today, we're going to ask God for some things. And this posture just shows that we are ready to receive whatever might come. Open hands means that we take what comes and that we do it with gratitude. So just put your hands on your lap or in front of you, palms up. Continue to breathe in and breathe out. As we begin examining a memory, first thing we do is we just pray and acknowledge that God's Spirit is with us. We acknowledge that no matter where we are, we don't have to ask the Spirit to come. The Spirit is present with us. So take a moment and just offer a simple prayer of gratitude for God's Spirit, guidance, wisdom, inspiration. A prayer of gratitude for that Spirit being with us today. And continue to focus on your breathing. Breathing deep breath in, deep breath out. In the second step of this practice, we name some things that we're grateful for. Specifically, you may want to bring to mind a memory. I'd invite you to bring a memory or a few memories, things that have happened in the past for which you're grateful. And if you struggle to find one, choose the one that most easily and readily comes to mind. whether it's a moment from your childhood, adulthood, maybe it's from the last half hour. Bring to mind a memory or memories that you are grateful for. If the memory you bring to mind happens to be difficult, those are the hardest ones to hold. So perhaps in that case, you want to express some gratitude for the way God works redemption, even in the midst of difficult things. So if it's a hard memory, express your gratitude to God for the redemption that He's brought out of that, or that He is bringing out of that. Let's take a moment and just express your gratitude for those memories or that memory that comes to mind. Next, as you bring this memory to mind, as you express gratitude to God for what has happened, pay attention to any emotions that come up as you bring that memory to mind. Express those emotions to God and notice if there's any lesson or wisdom or any insight that comes out of noting the emotion. If there's a surprising feeling of happiness, maybe a feeling of gratitude, but also it's bittersweet. Pay attention to that emotion, but also pay attention to how that emotion affects your body. Where do you feel that emotion? In your gut, in the center of your chest, in your heart? Or is it something that comes as a thought or an insight? Take a moment and pay attention to any emotions that come to mind and whatever lessons those emotions might teach, whatever lessons God's Spirit might bring from those emotions. Finally, as we close our practice, allow yourself some time to pray this question: God, how can you turn this memory and the experience of it into wisdom for the future? God, how can you take this memory and turn this memory and the experience of it into wisdom for the future? Or perhaps you want to pray this question: God, how are you calling me to pass on the wisdom that I have gained from this memory or this story? Whichever of those questions feels most relevant to you, share that question with God today. And close this practice with a prayer, and I'll offer this prayer for you. God, you are the God of past, present, and future. You are the God who wired our brains. You are the God who forms us in every place of our being. May we take our memories and find the goodness and beauty and truth in each one. And may you teach us wisdom, perseverance, courage, and hope. And may we become the kind of people whose stories become pieces of transformation for the rest of the world. Amen. With a practice like this, obviously there are some ways that you can customize this. You can change the questions at the end. If there's something that comes up that's very specific to your memory that you're thinking of, maybe it's an action step, feel free to take that. If you'd like to do this with your family, one of the best ways that you can do it, especially with children who are younger and maybe more artistically inclined, is to lead them through this by have them drawing a particular memory that comes to mind for them. And then asking them, what was good about that? And what do you think God thinks about that time that you love, that picture that you've drawn? Where do you think God was? What do you think God thinks about that? And then just ask them, what do you know about God, about us, about our family because of the things that happened? And you can find ways to translate that into your kids' own language. But that might be a good way for you to carry that into your family. If you lead a team, sometimes this practice can be really good with a team that's close and a team that supports each other well and has strong relationships, because after the practice is over, you can share your experience of the memory you brought to mind and also any insights or wisdom that God brought out of that. So there are some very specific ways that you can use it. And of course, as with anything, spiritual practices are just that, they're practices. They're meant to be cultivated and shaped for the particular situation you find yourself in. So my hope and my prayer is that this practice tunes you more to your memory of what God has done, and also that this prayer helps you navigate and interrogate the kind of wisdom that comes when we begin thinking about what is it that I've been through and how is that taking me to the next place where I'm going. So thank you all for sharing your time with me today.
Thank you, Casey. I really appreciate your wisdom and your thoughtfulness. The field of neuroplasticity is an important one. It's growing quickly, and thank you for bringing together two important disciplines in spiritual direction and formation, along with what we know in our learning about the brain. Sometimes we have folks who go, spiritual direction, that's kind of woo-woo, isn't it? And your story is very relevant in those spaces to say, you know what, it is a unique experience, but it's not without basis in science and it's not without basis in experience. So
Yeah,
we kept an open mind about what spiritual direction it is and is not. Thank you for that. I really do appreciate it.
glad to. My privilege, my pleasure.
Well, if you are watching this or listening to this, there will be a code at the end where you can purchase Casey's book through InterVarsity Press at 10% off. That's available only to our donors who are seeing this. And so know that this is another way in which 1128 is wanting to support you in your spiritual formation and your spiritual growth. As someone who's doing some work right now with my own memory and in some of the areas that Casey's talking about, I can highly recommend this practice. It is relevant, it is real, it is transformative. So peace and blessings to each one of you. Thanks for watching or listening, and thanks again, Casey.
You're welcome. Thank you.